But if I can't,
Councillors, we are now live on YouTube and it's already a minute or two past 10 o'clock, so extend a warm welcome to everybody, to councillors, to staff, members of the public, media. Lovely for you to all be here today. Tēnā koutou katoa. Moving on to apologies. I don't believe we have. Have we got Hillary on Zoom? Yes, we have. Otherwise, we're all here in some fashion. Attendance, the appropriate staff are with us today, so thank you to those staff here. Confirmation of the agenda. We have two additional items to add. One is Michael Laws's submission to Aurora's energy plan. And the second item, let's in a moment move that additional item will be item 8, and then we also have another additional item which will be item 9, which is the confirmation of councillors to be involved in a COVID recovery working party with staff. Is that about the description?
Jobs for nature. I think
Jobs for nature. Okay, thank you. So I will move in that way. So item 8 will be Aurora Energy Plan, and item 9 will be the councillors appointed to the Jobs for Nature working party. Seconded by Carmen. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Moving on to conflict of interest, that's just the standard reminder for everybody to be aware of. That's your responsibility to ensure that you step back when that's necessary. So we move on to item 5, the public forum. We've got Elka Becuis to speak to us, and also Nick, and I didn't quite pick up your surname, Nick. Baker? Bakehouse, thank you. Well, welcome both of you. If you'd like to come down the other end of the table, and I think Councillor Wilson will put 2 chairs there for you. And Kate, I might just get you to pull the microphone forward and make sure it's on.
Strategically placed.
Elka and Nick, hey, thanks very much for being with us today. We've been circulated the map that you've provided to us, so we're essentially in your hands to listen, and there may be some questions when you finish your presentation, so thank you.
Good morning. Our names are Ilka and Nick Bakehouse. We are long-term residents of Dunedin, South Dunedin, where we live with our 3 young children. We're here to kindly ask you to consider the impact of ORC Public Works and the impact that has on local businesses, and to give special consideration to tourism operators, given the recent impact of COVID. For the past 9 years, we've been operating a bike tourism and bike hire company from our home on McAndrew Road in Forbury, where we have a workshop and store our fleet of about 40 bikes in our garage. During tour season, we employ up to 4 staff members. We recently received a letter from the ORC transport team stating how they plan to move the bus stops on McAndrew Road and are proposing to take away all of the off-street parking spaces in front of our home. The existing bus stops on McAndrew Road are 13 metres, yet the size of the proposed bus stop in front of our house is 32 metres. This proposed bus stop will require us to make major operational changes to our business. During the summer season, we required these spaces for a van and a 12-bike trailer so that we can load and unload bikes for our tours, and also for parking spaces for our customers in their camper vans. As you are well aware, most tourist operators have been severely impacted by COVID. Our business is currently at a complete standstill, yet we are determined to continue operating, and we look forward to when tourists return to Dunedin. The ORC's bus stop proposal changes will negatively impact our business in a time when we are already struggling with the lack of tourists. The particular block by our house on McAndrew Road has 2 businesses on it, and you can see that from the map. Our tourism business, and at the South Dunedin Plunkett Clinics across the road from us at 267 McAndrew Road. Plunkett is also a heavy user of the parking spots in front of our house for their clients and staff. The proposed bus stop is in the exact area of the street that has the highest need for off-street parking. Additionally, we have grave concerns that the location of the proposed bus stop changes will have a negative impact on the safety for pedestrians and drivers. The intersection of Surrey Street and McAndrew Road is a busy one, and it has a lot of school traffic and children crossing McAndrew Road to get to King's, Queen's, and St. Clair's School. We certainly welcome safety improvements, such as a pedestrian crossing, but we do not agree that the placement of a bus stop on the approach side of Surrey Street intersection, as they will create a visual hazard and make it more difficult for cars and pedestrians to cross McAndrew Road safely. If you look at the 2014 Nzta guidelines on bus stops, it clearly states on page 28, locating bus stops near intersections can improve access for potential passengers. However, traffic management issues need to be considered in determining the most appropriate location. And here's the important sentence. In general, where possible, stops should be located on the departure side rather than the approach side of intersections. As you can see from the map we provided, the proposed stops contradict the Nzta bus guidelines. I'm an elected member of the Southern District Health Board, so I'm well aware that as councillors, you don't deal with operational matters. Yet, you do have the power to ensure that ORC procedures and policies that inform the operational work of the ORC make appropriate considerations for local businesses. I've looked at key ORC strategic documents relating to transport, and I'm very happy to see that on paper, the ORC seems to agree that our local economy needs to be fostered and protected. Your long-term plan for 2018 to 2028 frequently uses the phrase stimulate the local economy. The joint Otago-Southland Regional Land Transport Plans for 2015 to 2021 mentions protecting and developing our regional economy in the objectives specifically relating to tourism. And this year's ORC's annual plan states on page 11 that the Transport Work Program is for planning, contract management, and action to provide choice and support the regional economy. We urge you to live up to your own words and about supporting our regional economy and recognize our business's contributions as a long-standing tour operator in Dunedin. In this instance, all we're asking you is to do nothing. Do not move the bus stops on McAndrew Road, and please do not negatively impact our business with your proposed changes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Ilka. Nick, have you anything to add?
No.
Good as gold. Well, it's very clear what you're asking, and I will ensure that Amanda is able to get a copy of your written submission. That would be good. Gary Maloney is sitting here with us, he's the transport manager for the Otago Regional Council, so he's hearing directly from you today as well. Questions? Marion, Carmen, Michael.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I'm practicing. It's driving me mad. I just want to know, were you consulted or involved in any of this decision making? Did anyone come and talk to you?
No, but we have requested that they come and meet us at our home tomorrow so that they can actually see our workshop, see the actual location. So
this bus change was, see, it looks as though it's reducing 2 buses stops to 1, doesn't it?
Yes.
From here. It may not be. There may be a further one up the road. But I would have hoped that there had been some consultation before a de facto happening.
Assuming that this is the consultation that the map that they provided us.
Right.
But yes, I do hope that it is up for consultation and that our voice is heard in this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you for coming along. I appreciate the map. Where you are and where the Plunkett is across the road from you, how many cars can park there at one time? Because we can see, and knowing that McAndrew Bay and Surrey Street as well, that's all busy for children of all ages, primary and secondary. How many cars could park outside where you are, and how many can park outside the Plunkett?
I'd say
Please.
about in front of ours about.
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
if you really could squash everything in, you'd get 5 cars outside our place, 2
Yep.
cars outside Plunkett.
Yeah.
But that's 2 very small cars parked right up against each other. So
And it often is that case that it's all taken up. And we've been working well with Plunkett to, work well together and with the parking. It is a busy area, but this will severely impact it.
And one further question, please, if I may. The Plunkett Clinic, is it 5 days a week?
Yes.
It is. Say
well,
9
6,
till...
it's actually 6
Oh,
days a week.
Saturday as
They
well.
operate on Saturdays as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Michael.
The consultation bit, please. So the first you hear about it.
We heard about it with a letter on July 23rd, and we just received the letter and the map. We then contacted the individual involved and have asked her to come to our house, so that will happen tomorrow morning.
And when's the indication that a final decision will be made by?
There hasn't really been an indication about that. It just said that all feedback was to be received at 3 p.m. today.
And are you aware of any other folk? Because with all due respect, Ilka, you know the political process. Have you talked to the Plunkett Clinic, and do they share your concerns?
The staff members do. The hub manager is indifferent. But they haven't been, it appears no one else on our street has received this letter. We've asked our neighbours.
Oh, really?
So it's
just you, because the post stops outside your...
Yeah.
Senator Plunkett.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Kate, then Gretchen.
Could I just ask for clarification, Gary, what the process is after this, or is that going too far?
I would prefer that Gary deals with, well, there's going to be a site visit tomorrow.
No, I appreciate that. I meant just, if they get the feedback, where that goes to. In the past, I had understood that councillors were involved, but I could be completely wrong in those decisions.
So,
that's fine.
yeah, so we can receive information from public forum, but we're not going to solve or take the next step.
No, I didn't want to solve it. I wanted to understand the process, but that's fine.
Fair enough. Gretchen.
Yeah, mindful of the fact that there is a site visit tomorrow, and that's great, and you'll be able to go into more detail. Just looking at that though, you've got a garage where you store 40 bikes at times. You must have off-street access into the garage, so there's potential to go into the garage with a vehicle if required.
There's not, sorry. It is a double car garage, but it's we store 40 bikes there, so it's completely full.
Yeah, but there is off-street access to the car.
Gretchen, could I get you to turn your microphone
All right,
off?
off again. Sorry, Andrew. And just wondering, you'll go into this tomorrow, but in terms of parking in front of your place, whether you've looked at some sort of restricted parking with the DCC, like, I don't know, a P10 or residents only parking or something like that. Have you looked at that before?
We haven't
never looked at that. No,
no, we haven't needed to. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, just on behalf of ORC, Otago Regional Council, thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you for bringing the issue to us, and good luck, and have a safe journey back to work.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, matters for a council decision. The hearing panel's recommendation on the interim trial, the simplified Dunedin Fares consultation. Welcome to Gavin and Gary. And just noting that Kate and Brian Baxter were the commissioners on this hearing process. So, Kate, when you have an opportunity, I'll come back to you shortly. But Gary, is there anything you want to say in terms of introducing this commissioner's decision or commissioner's decision?
No, just happy to answer questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. There was an email that I received from Mayor Hawkins late last night, and I did circulate it to you both and Sarah, and I just wondered whether you have had an opportunity, and just for everyone else's information, I only shared it with Alexa and Kate and Gary and Gavin, but it was just around the cross subsidy and the availability of that for the trial. But I just wondered in opening whether you had any comment on that email.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So one of the key things is we have an opportunity to bring this while there was some patients closing it necessarily.
Microphone.
Sorry.
Thank you.
It was about how quickly we could get this thing in. And so the choice was you actually went back to charging fares when we were last in level 2 at that point. and look at bringing the ticketing system on later, and so your customer base, your residents, and people would pay from then, or you looked at the compromise around, so how do we make this happen sooner, pick a way forward that's going to benefit most people. There's always that balance between somebody has to pay, somebody's better off. So that's what we've done, and we did that by going, well, let's propose minimising the concessions that we have. And the big issue, of course, that's been flagged that hasn't been necessarily addressed to some people's satisfaction is around the tertiary students. There are, pre-COVID, there were 21,000 tertiary students that we would need to validate concessions for. And so by doing what we have proposed, we've got a way forward. Had we had to validate those concessions, then it would have taken longer to put the system in place.
Okay, so it's probably a question for Gavin then. The shortfall, you've identified somewhere where priorities can be juggled to ensure that the $9,000 per month can be found?
Mr. Chairman, no, we haven't at the moment, and the reason for that is there's so much happening in the transport space with the COVID thing that it's all just part of the mix. But I think just keep the thing in context, it's a smallish amount given the total spend, and the primary driver, as Mr. Maloney has said, has been about getting the new system in place at a time that minimises the implementation risk, and we accept there's a cost that goes with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Kate, was there anything that you wanted to add at this point?
No, it was the 20 submitters really assisted the process and understanding. Yes, we realise that tertiary students, not all tertiary students will be worse off because we've extended the age to 18, but it is only for a relatively short period for them because they generally finish late October, early November, and they are the biggest losers. We were concerned, however, that the child rate, which would be for the whole period, had gone up for the first zone quite a bit, and that's why we've come down with the suggestion of the $1.20. And while there was an opportunity perhaps for that to be covered elsewhere, we weren't actually necessarily concerned about that either. The $3 tag off is consistent with the policy on the B card, and that's why we've gone for that. It should still work as data gathering, we hope.
Before we go any further, I'll just run through the recommendations so that we're all nice and clear on what is being proposed. So number one is that we receive the report. Number two, that we approve the hearing panel's recommendation that the proposed Dunedin flat fare system be introduced, and that's the adult at $2, the youth at $1, and if anyone's still using cash, they'll be charged $3. And then Kate's just mentioned B and C. And then the third one, request staff prepare a further report to enable council to further consider options for what happens following the end of the trial.
$1.20. I think you said $1. It's $1.20. You said $1.20.
$1.20 for youth?
Yes.
Oh, beg your pardon. Sorry. Thank you. Questions? Gary, Marion, Alexa, Michael.
Thanks. 1,400 submissions, 20 I think spoke. Do we have a number on what percentage that would be of people in any, on say an average day in usage of the bus? How many people are we hearing from in proportion to who would be using the bus on any given day?
Just not off the top of my head, I can work it out and come back to you with an approximate number.
Okay,
cool. Can I just comment though that some were representing groups, so there was the Otago University Students Association. Sorry, I thought I turned it on. Otago University Students Association came along. Otago Polytech put a submission in. Bus users Otapoti put a submission in and were heard. So, and the Disability Access Group came along and submitted. So, while they may be one submission, they represented a number of users.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marion.
I've got two questions. Sorry. You referred to converting it all to the one, the one section and the $1 or whatever it was. How long? You said it would take time. How long would it take to do that? Is it weeks?
Yes, well, we will miss our go live date.
Okay.
In terms of having a concession for those other groups. If I can just comment, Councillor mentioned tertiary students. Their lectures end at the start of October, so there's 1 month, and then exams are a month after that.
The second question I've got is, and I'm really worried about this, we're meant to be working closely with DCC. DCC and some members of this council really are worried, see this as a climate change mitigator, if you like. It's getting people out of their cars into buses, and we're trying to do that. And I had a feeling that DCC were willing to put up money to make sure that this trial continued in a flat line through until we got to the long-term plan. How much work do you do with DCC on these issues?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So we've been working with DCC from probably the start of the year when the $2 thing first came up. At an officer level, we've had conversations about if council was to make a subsequent decision in terms of the first half of the next calendar year, how that might be funded. And so that will be one of the options that will come back to you in terms of if you stick with what potentially you'll decide today, what the cost of that be and how that will be met.
You're okay, Marion?
I think so.
Okay. Alexa.
Well, I'm really
worried.
Glad to see that this is coming together, and I like what the hearing panel's done. I was actually really sad to see that email from Aaron last night, and seeing that DCC had I don't know, I don't really understand if it hadn't been worked with or where the breakdown was, but I wondered why that breakdown had happened, why they didn't know, and why they were upset. And I did the sums, and it's a very small amount of money. I don't know how we're going to think about how we're doing that, but I'm unhappy to have DCC unhappy, frankly. And but we're talking 5 days for an adult return. The penalty is less than $1 a week, and for children it's less. It's 50 cents a week for 5-day weeks there and back in Zone 1. So it's kind of, I'm not sure where we go from here, but I think it's inauspicious to be having Aaron upset at this point of the process, and I wonder if you had any views on that or how we might get over that.
Chairman, if you want more detail about the process we've followed, we're happy to share that with you. There's been very close working with DCC, and we can happy to give you more detail on what that process has been like to inform you.
So that's today or the next report?
No, I'm just happy we can do that separately. We can send you some information just to the background to our close working relationship with DCC.
So there is a close working relationship there. So something's fallen down in their department, maybe.
Okay, so you'll circulate something that shows the work. Well, the partnership, I suppose, is the key over quite a period of time leading up to this point. Hang on.
I did, but not.
No. So just to explain.
It's just challenging. We haven't seen the email.
Okay.
Andrew said it. Okay.
Yeah. So at about, I'm not sure what time it was, but let's say it was about 6 or 7 o'clock last night. I had rung Aaron, and it was very much based on a conversation I had with Sarah, late last week?
Yes.
At the agenda not the agenda confirmation, but the talk over what was here today to be considered, and it was agreed that I was to speak to Aaron and on the matter of cross subsidy, so which I did, and I had tried him several times before I actually connected with him, but anyway, that's why it turned out to be last night. And I said to him about the cross subsidy and asked him, was the city prepared to pick up the $9,000 per month for the trial shortfall? And he said, well, I haven't actually read the report. Need to read the report. So he went away and read the report. He then and I said to him at the conclusion of reading the report, can you send me an email to clearly indicate where Council DCC sits on the current proposal that we've got in front of us today? I flicked that email to Kate, Alexa Sarah, Gary, and Gavin, very much based on this was sort of just landing, and I thought, well, you need to get the key players here to think about whether this is an issue we need to actually deal with today rather than circulating it fully. So that's the call I made at the time. If that upsets anybody, I apologise, but I just felt that at that point in time, it needed to go to those key people, regional transport members and staff, clearly. So that's how we got to this point.
What did the email say?
It basically said there was a couple of issues that the City Council weren't completely happy with. One was around access or charging for people with disabilities. And I can't quite remember what the other one was.
It was making buses cheaper. It was their mandate, and the most vulnerable people, i.e. children and go-kart extra, and some others, and those on the one going one section, were going to be actually paying more, not less. And that they did have, they just felt that they did have some money they could have helped work through those issues with us, but they hadn't heard about it until now, but we don't know where that break in communication is yet.
And the email also confirmed that the Dunedin City Council were keen to continue to move towards a cross-subsidy role at some point, but they just had these issues that they would like to try and resolve first. Michael.
Is that exactly what Mayor Aaron said when he made his submission to the commissioners?
No, not quite. I don't believe that all of the Dunedin City Council submission has been addressed in this paper. That's essentially the vibe I got with the email. But
the decision of the hearing committee.
Well, sorry. Well, as Sarah said, the report we've got in front of us now is from the hearings panel, and Aaron wasn't totally satisfied that all the issues that they raised in their submission have been addressed.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
anyway.
He's having two bites of the cherry, isn't he?
Oh.
Yep. Kate.
If I could address that. So he's not having two bites of the cherry. He offered up a fund that was unbudgeted. We were really clear it was unbudgeted, but they were prepared to meet us some way. We didn't make the exact decision they wanted. Yes, we have put children's fares up in some zones. We get that. That was part of the decision making. We were balancing things out. Personally, I thought there was going to be a conversation with the council about that, and it may or may not have happened, and I'm not going to judge that now. But that wasn't what was driving the final decision. The final decision was about what did we think was, on the balance, the fairest and best solution, given the evidence we had, and the funding is actually separate. So, I mean, I know it's involved in it, but that's where we thought we could get the best result and the fairest result. So that's sort of how we decided, and I think that came out. It isn't dependent on our decision, I don't think is dependent on that funding.
I think that the long-term commitment from the city is still there and will remain there. And I mean, they wouldn't have made that commitment, that substantial amount of money that they've put, or they've made available for a cross-subsidy, and obviously other issues that they may have to deal with, perhaps in the future. But any further questions?
Yeah.
Okay, back, Michael.
That was an interjection. It wasn't my question.
Okay, Michael.
I want to say, first of all, thanks to Kate for all the work she's done on our behalf, and it was just a very good job indeed. Secondly, thanks to Gary for the way the B card's going. Went through the process, got mine loaded, all ready to go. Very impressed with how simple that was and how efficient the system was. I think it arrived in about 4 days after going through the website. My question is this business of the $3 for forgetting to tag off. And it's a quick question to Gary on the mechanics of that. How does that actually work? If I forget to tag off when I get home and I tag on the next day, does the system automatically say, there's that forgetful, stupid old man, and squeezes another $3 out of my card? Is that the way it works?
Yes.
Ah, good. So it's dead easy. I'm not going to get a letter saying you owe us $3 or anything silly like that.
Sarah?
Sorry, I just wondered if it would help Council. Gary, is that a consistent approach throughout the regions in New Zealand that are using the B card?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is. Most of the consortium have a penalty for failing to tag off. The $3 that's recommended is equivalent to the cash fare. So if somebody hopped on and said, actually, for whatever reason, I don't want to use smart card, I'm going to pay cash, they would pay $3, and that would be the cost of their trip. If you have a smart card, you tag on, and forget to tag off, you will pay $3 instead of $2 if you're an adult, and it's equivalent to, we're not getting the information that we need with respect to being able to plan the network.
Okay.
Seems fair.
I don't know about that.
Brian?
Yeah, no, thank you. Before I ask my question, I'd just like to make a comment. Similar to Councillor Deaker, I'm actually very happy with what's come out of this from the hearing panel. And in fact, I was actually pleased to see that the ORC governance put a councillor on the hearing panel, and I agree. I think we see the benefit of that. If in fact the DCC had provided a hearing panelist as well, I suspect we will have circumnavigated the issue that apparently is in the background, and everybody would be happy moving forward. And if we are working constructively in tandem with the DCC, I would suggest that for future hearing panels, one from the ORC, one from the DCC, and the technical expert. And I think from there that would resolve, a little bit of tension around the periphery. Yeah, thank you. My question is in relation to the comments that this is a 4-month trial, and that come Christmas we're going to go through a change. And I support the recommendation number 3, where it says request staff to prepare a further report to enable council to further consider options for what happens following the end of the trial. My question has always been, I can see this being successful, and I can see potentially some community backlash at the end of this trial. They're going to say, hey, it's been successful, we've supported it, why don't you continue it? Why don't you sort out the financials in the background to make this flat fare work? And I can see that. And certainly I support the sentiment that December, right in the middle of the Christmas holidays, is not the appropriate time to do any change. And so my question is, Mr. Chair, what is it actually going to take to make this trial successful so that it potentially can continue into the future? What's it going to take? Are we looking at that? I know I missed the last report debate where one of the recommendations was that it would automatically flick into the standard fare situation, but does it necessarily have to? So what is this what you're going to consider in terms of options for what happens following the end of the trial? Is there an option that actually some type of standard fare, reduced fare arrangement with consideration of the community needs
It's a long question,
options?
Brian. It's a long question.
A good one.
Sorry about that.
For you, Mr. Chairman, so yes, it is intended to come back to you to seek a decision around what happens next year. And, there are probably numerous options, but 2 of them that you've alluded to are pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Or to continue with what we're trialling now. That will give you the opportunity to understand what the financial implications of doing that are.
Or a third option.
Oh, yeah, there could be other options.
Okay, so we're approaching it at this point with an open mind. Thank you very much.
Carmen, Michael, Marion.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do struggle with the $3 tag off with a lot, and I have to concur with the the Disability Persons Assembly on this, and there are things that worry me. Firstly, if this is chosen, how well is this going to be communicated to everybody?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we've been pretty clear through our communications that it's there. You know, it's on the FAQs, it's on the website. We're not trying to hide it.
Okay, and the second thing is, if we do this for 3 months or 6 months, does it have to be set at $3? I know you talked about there's a reason why, but I'm quite worried about this. And I would like to know what other people think, if I may, through the chair. I just see this as quite a concern. I mean, sometimes you are on the bus through no fault of your own. The bus is running late. You're trying to get on, people are trying to get off, and you may miss it.
Yeah, Sarah mentioned before that this is a consistent approach across the country with regards to other communities setting up a B card regime, and I assume maybe it's got something to do with the programming. I don't know, but it's a consistent approach, and I suppose staff are saying that it's been made pretty clear in terms of the consultation, etc. But I don't know. Is there anything you wanted to add, Gavin or Gary, with regards to Carmen's point?
Jim, we'll need to look into it, but it's the kind of thing we'll be able to measure, you know. And so if council found that were, you know, it was happening a lot and it was unreasonable, it can always be changed in the future. And one of the things about going to the new ticketing system is it'll give you that improved data about how the system's actually operating. But we'll check that, come back to you.
May I make a suggestion, if I could, please? So yesterday I lined up at the council because I had a couple of elderly people that gave me their tickets, and I thought I'd like to do this process because then I understand. It was quick and it was easy, and though I didn't have all the information, I wonder if that's something that could be alerted to people. Now, you might think I'm being silly, but there were 3 people behind me, and 2 of them actually said, I don't have access to a computer. And I thought, wow, we're still in that age. And I just think that is something we do need to be really, really mindful of. And I'm sorry, I like this, but I don't know if I can vote for it on that whole $3 fare. I just think if we could tease it out a bit more, we need to make people aware of it.
Thank you. A further comment from the far end of the... Okay, no, we've got Michael Laws, then Marion, then Kevin. And Lexa and Gary.
First of all, I apologise because my eyes slightly glaze over when it comes to Dunedin buses, but I'm going to do my best on the process. The recommendation of the councillor, of the commissioners.
Oh, Hilary, would you mind turning your mic on? Sorry, Mike. Michael.
The recommendation of of Kate and Brian, the commissioners, I guess, is contained in number 40. What the recommendation is, and my understanding is that that's what we have to accept or not today. The next question I would have is, but the way in which we implement that's discretionary to us today too, is it?
Mr. Chairman, no. No, because we're going live on the 1st of September here, and so we need that locked into the system and tested beforehand. So the decision today sets that up.
Why are we going live on the 1st of September? Is that to align with everybody else in New Zealand?
So that's reflective of our place in the RITS queue, and also with the agreement that we had from the agency to be fare free up until that time. Most regions that are part of this consortium that are rolling it out are given 6 to 8 weeks of freedom in terms of fare free. We've had fare free right from late March through to end of August, and they, that was a challenge for the agency.
Amanda needs to.
Okay, so if we turn down today's recommendation, we pick up Carmen or we say, no, we want to delay this until we took further to the DCC to understand what their objections are. In other words, give ourselves a bit of time to reach a decision that we're all comfortable with around the table, and so is the DCC. You're saying that option doesn't really exist to us because you've got to go on the 1st of September. Is that right?
That's correct.
Wow. That's not a very good process, is it? And then the other thing I would have to say is this. So it's a 4-month trial from September the 1st to December the 31st, is that correct? Which is sort of an atypical part of the year, isn't it? Because, as you've just explained, you've got students going home from the end of October, so they're out basically all of November and December. You've got university, schools wrapping up as well during that period. You've got the festive period leading up into Christmas. Really, is that the 4 months that we're going to be able to gain sufficient data to be able to make an informed decision at the end of it?
So just to be clear, Sarah's just reminded me it was a council decision to agree on the time frame.
No, but that's...
But just to be, that was our decision. Yep. No, but that's cool. Sorry. Gary?
If I go back to something that I said at the start, this was about how we simplified it to bring earlier the ticketing system. So yes, we've used the word trial, but it's around what we could do to bring it on sooner.
Yeah.
Right, but we're still going to trial it because it might not work. We might have sufficient evidence that it goes, yeah, you know, right, that stuff about children's right, or that stuff about disabled passengers is correct. Or we might even find something that we haven't discovered in that 4 months, which is quite common too. When do we review that? Because I want to know what's going to happen on the 1st of January.
Agree, Mr. Chairman. So my expectation it will be in the kind of couple of months after we go live, so that we've got time to, if you make decisions to either change it or continue with what we're doing, we can change the stuff behind the scenes to make it happen.
So when will we do that though, please? Right.
So my expectation that would be in November.
Oh, so we won't have a 4-month trial.
It's a 2-month trial.
No.
Right.
Any other questions, Michael, at this point? If not, Marion.
I'm sorry, before I got distracted. We are making a decision on a transitional phase. I accept all that, accept the timing. But what I want to know is that we therefore, I just want to see if this is agreed to, we have a chance to redo the fares at the end of the transition. And that is because I have a strong memory of a meeting over in Otaru room with Go Dunedin or whatever its equivalent is, Connect Dunedin, in which there was a discussion of a $1 fare and quite big money coming in from DCC. And that got us through the students, you know, and it got us through the one section issues. But I know because I raised my eyebrows at the time. I love what is happening at the moment, but I'm really scared of reneging on what I picked up in conversation with councillors that may not have been staff to staff conversations, which were about a possibility of taking the whole lot down to $1 fare, okay, with the consequences of that might be. And they actually said a sum of money that they had there for it. And I just want to see if that's possible, because I'm very conscious. We work quite hard with QLDC when we do things down there. We should be working really closely with DCC, and that's councillor to councillor sort of thing, as much as staff to staff. Sorry, I'm not being critical. I'm really nervous. I'd hate us to come through at the end of this and fail.
Fair enough, and we are slotted in to speak directly to DCC councillors on passenger transport matters in general, in light of the regional passenger transport plan review, which is coming up. Yeah. So I'll just go back to my list. Thank you, Marion. We've got Kevin, Alexa, Gary. Sorry.
And Hillary, please.
And Hillary. Okay. Kevin.
I understood this process to be a process designed to be to allow us for the simple implementation of a new ticketing system, and that the timeframes were evolved around the installers and giving us the best crack at getting that right. Yep. I also understood that the flat fare made that process simpler, but my understanding, which Councillor Hobbs alludes to there, was this was not going to be the be-all and the end-all. and hopefully at the end we'd have a solution for the way forward for transport. And it may only be an interim one, but certainly this was only for that period. So I'm quite comfortable what's being proposed in that we will still have the options. And now with the, I suppose with a bit of angst coming from that emails from DCC, that this is really going to concentrate us on getting something right before we come out of that trial. So that probably does give me some comfort. What I just want to understand about the $3 tick off, if my name's Michael and I get off at Opaho and I forget to tag off, so when I get back on the bus, my fare automatically becomes $3 for the next ride, or is there another $3? Is there a $3 and a $2 put on?
So if you go to tag off yesterday and you go and use the bus today, you'll be charged the higher fare for yesterday and a new fare for today.
Right. So what's that? So that's going to cost me 2, 3, and 2.
So if you're an adult, instead of it costing you $4 yesterday for your return trip, it will cost you $5.
All right.
And it'll cost you $2 for your first boarding today.
Yes, so it's an extra $1.
It's an extra $1.
An extra $1. Good, thank you. Yeah, Alexa. Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Alexa. Yeah, no, that's pretty fair.
I'm concerned about getting too caught up in the detail. This has been through a hearings panel.
Yeah.
And the hearings panel have made the decision that they think's best. And I'd hate to see this fall over and this trial fall over. There's been a lot of work put into it. It's going the right way.
Yes.
And if we have to acknowledge that there's something to be worked out with DCC, let's acknowledge it. As far as I can tell, it's probably a really small amount of money. Can we do something? I'm not sure what, but somehow figure this out to make sure we go through there. I like where Marion's going, but I think that's too hard to work out at the moment. I think the trial's in the right place.
Yeah, it's up the trial.
The $3 fail when you get off there, it adds $1 to your fare. That's all it does. That is standard practice around the world and around the B card things. And for us to get hung up on that, I would be really concerned about, because we need that data. We cannot tell what's going on with people getting on, where they get on and off, and a small penalty, and it is a small penalty, and if $1 makes a big difference to you, you'll learn very quickly to tag off. And everywhere else in the world, when you get on a bus, it's not free, you tag off. So I just don't see a problem with that. So I really want to see this go ahead, but I want us to take seriously any problems with DCC and work them through. And it shouldn't hold up the trial, the DCC problems, but let's work it through. Let's make sure that we go back to them at a council political level as well as a staff level. I trust that Gavin and Gary have done their work at a staff level. I have no questions about that. I've seen how their work is. But I think somewhere else the ball has been dropped between their staff and their politics, or at our political level with me and Kate and Marion or whoever else is involved. So we need to fix that up. But let's go with this trial and get it underway. Otherwise, the time frames are going to get away on us.
Gary.
Yeah, look, I agree with the sentiment around it's been through a hearings process. They have received all the information and they've come up with a recommendation. And for me personally, I think it's great, having watched empty Dunedin buses for so long, another opportunity to trial something different. It's worked well in Queenstown. I think that's really positive. My question is around item number 3, and we are requesting staff to prepare a further report to enable council to further consider options. Will that have the flexibility and enough detail at a time to be able to make a recommendation? We could extend this trial for 3 more months if we felt that we haven't had a good encompassing of what would be a fair year. Will it cover that option as well, or are we bound by some other requirement?
For you, Mr. Chairman, so mention's been made of the Regional Public Transport Plan Review. One of the key things in that is around how you set fares, and so that will feed into that. So, we're talking here about a flat fare. Well, should it be flat or should you be charging for distance? We're talking about concessions. Again, why should some groups benefit from others? What's the philosophy behind that? So there's a whole philosophical conversation that will feed into that subsequent decision that will be part of your public transport plan.
Sorry, I don't know that's quite answered the question though, and that when that report lands, say in October or November, will it include the flexibility to say, yes, we need another 3 months, to continue the trial to understand whether this is the right thing to do or not?
That's my expectation, is you'll have that option, whether you roll with it longer term or you keep it for 3 months.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hillary. Hello, Hillary. We've muted her, haven't we?
You have to unmute.
Sorry.
All right, it's all right. Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay. I share some of Alexa's concerns. I think that we've sent, and I think somebody else mentioned, perhaps Gary, we sent this off to a hearings panel, and at the hearings panel there was a submission by the DCC, which I presume the council has authorised. So the hearings panel took that as well as a lot of other things into consideration, and they've come up with something. And it's a trial, which is good because we can try it, and I don't mind whether it's 3 months or 6 months or whatever's appropriate. But I'm concerned that it should be derailed by a last-minute response to what the hearings panel has suggested from the Mayor. It seems to me that what we can do to avoid this happening again would be when we are looking at the review, that we actually get something that is effectively a submission which comes from the DCC, not from Aaron afterwards or roundabout there or anything, but that when we do a review that we have in front of us what the DCC, the council, thinks of where we've got to and what they would like to happen. Because I think that would be a much better process than where we've got to this time. I don't think we need to keep going backwards and forwards with the Mayor or sometimes the council or sometimes other people. I think we should just have a process that picks up what the DCC view is at an appropriate time. However we reach that, I mean, people can talk about whatever to each other and share any information and things, but we need in front of us, when we review this, what the Dunedin City Council, not staff, I mean, that'll lead into it, I'm sure, but what that council wants us to know before we make a decision.
Okay, thank you. That's pretty clear. I'm going to move the recommendations, seconded by Alexa. And I just want to speak to the point that Hillary has just made. I want to make it really, really clear that Aaron, the Mayor of Dunedin City Council, said in his email that the city is mandated to make buses cheaper.
Yes.
He did not have the ability to be able to deal with the issues that he felt hadn't been resolved through the submission process. And he said in his email that he would have to go back to council to get approval. So I just wanted to put that on the table in fairness to Aaron. So are there any further speakers? Oh, sorry, Gretchen. Beg your pardon.
Yeah, I was about to move as well. If that's all right, I'll second your motion. Yeah, we've been through a hearings process and absolutely thank the panel members for doing that. They considered carefully what they heard and have, put forward the A, B and C recommendations there, which are totally sensible in my mind. Actually really great to be having the discussion about DCC. This is a trial and it looks as though there's some doors opening to further conversations, and we've planned for a report sometime during that trial that brings together all that information, any new information we have, and we can adjust accordingly. So yeah, thank you very much everyone involved.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further speakers? If not, just reinforce the thanks to Kate and Brian Baxter. Really positive step. This has been talked about, the issue of having a cross subsidy, ever since Queenstown Lake started to talk about, and as Gary alluded to, it's actually great knowing that we're working so closely in partnership with the Dunedin City Council. So that's really, really positive. I will. I do actually, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, I don't normally. Sorry.
Sorry, it's pricking my conscience here. It doesn't often happen. I want to support this, and if you can assure me that you will undertake, as well as you could in your communications, to further that there is reference made to the tagging off and what it will cost you, and if it might only be $1, but it could end up being, some people rack up quite a meter on the ticking if they don't understand it. And I do point that out, having people in the queue behind me at the OSC that don't have computers, how are they supposed to find the information? If you can assure me that you can do that, I will support you on this.
Through you,
Please.
Mr. Chairman, happy to try and get that message out there. I can't assure you because, we'll try the means that we can, and they won't just be electronic or, web, but, people pick up the messages they pick up.
Yes, I mean, I do understand, though, we have been doing trials. I mean, we've got great things going on our media, and I just want to be reassured that will continue. Thank you.
Okay. So
I wasn't going to speak, Mr. Chairman, but I really have to say that this issue, the B card, has been the best communicated ORC issue I've seen in years. As a Dunedin citizen, I have access, I suppose, to media that people who don't live in Dunedin have.
That would be true.
But every time I open the Star, frequently the ODT, it's all over Facebook, it's all over our website. Radio stations, every time you tune into a local station, they're talking about the B card. It has been wonderfully communicated, this issue. I don't know who's responsible for that, but I presume it's our comms team. Somebody in there has been managing this, and they've done a terrific job.
you pass that on, Sarah, to the comms team.
We're all looking pretty happy in the back, actually.
Okay. Must be a few
Well
of them over there.
said, Councillor Beck.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to make
Alexa.
one point, if I can, is that elsewhere in the world they usually have on buses a sign saying, don't forget to tag off.
Yeah, I do.
And that should be on our buses. I don't know if that's talked about, but it should be there.
That's the other place we've been communicating. Big B card signs in every bus.
Don't forget to tag off.
Okay. I'll put, quite happy I'll put the 3 recommendations all together. Okay, so I'll put 1, 2 and 3. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gavin. My apologies. I missed out on item 6, confirmation of the minutes from the 22nd of July. Moved Carmen, seconded Michael Laws.
Sorry, that one.
Any discussion?
Yes, can I just ask a question on the minutes?
Gary.
If we go to them, sorry, just be with me while we're at it. I just noticed that our minutes seem to be diminishing in detail.
Go to a page.
Yeah, I can.
Yep. Cool.
Slow farmer fingers getting there. So, item 7, confirmation of the minutes. So we have a statement that Councillor Hobbs moved an amendment to the minutes to include more specific reference to her statement to Councillor Laws. After discussion, Councillor Noon seconded a motion and was carried. But there is no words or detail there to actually say what the amendment was
That's fair.
and then what changed.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay. I do vaguely remember that it was a removal of a word.
It was defamation.
Well, I didn't say what word. The removal of a word, and once that word was removed, then everyone agreed that that was.
I think it was either remove a whole phrase about that he would be a lovely person to the people in Central Otago, or it would be lovely if you're a lovely person in Central Otago by removing the defamation charge. Now, I don't know whether the minutes, well, they don't, whether the minutes of that other meeting have either removed or added. Do you know?
So
please.
Yeah, so the resolution though was to adopt the minutes. So the change that was made is included in those minutes, rather than written again in these minutes.
So please, the question I'm asking.
Okay.
The question I'm asking is not about the detail then. It's about that the circumstance has occurred. If someone was just trying to discover these or look back in time, would you find what was originally said and what was changed? And I don't believe that you would. So is it a true and accurate record then? And if it's more about the issue. It's not about the specifics. It's about, do we want to see our minutes with less detail than more? That's my question. I suppose it's a question to councillors.
I don't want to relitigate that particular issue, but what I do want is for governance to send a clear message that we're either comfortable with the amount of detail we're getting. We don't want a novel written, but it just needs to be appropriate in light of the discussion. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I think Councillor Kelleher is saying that if we have a motion changing the wording from red and black to blue and gold, which it always should have been anyway, that we actually record in our minutes that it is blue, that the change is from red and black to blue and gold, and then when we look back, because at the moment if I look back in the previous minutes, I'll only see the minutes sitting there.
Corrected
Was that
ones.
the change or wasn't that the change?
Yeah. So we haven't seen the corrected minutes.
Don't need to see that. No. We just need to see it in our current one to saying that's the change that is being voted as.
Yeah. So
When would the corrected
yeah,
minutes
we
be
can
going?
we can cover that off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would they be published on the website? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will deal with that particular issue. Yes. Any further questions, queries with regards to the minutes? So it's been moved and seconded. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Now moving on to item 8, and this is the submission to the Aurora Energy Plan.
And this arrived in our mailboxes last night, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Correct. Yes. Yep. So you will have them electronically.
Old school. Sorry, this is not mine. This is the Commerce Commission.
So did everyone receive the submission from Michael Laws last night? Or late this afternoon maybe, or I can't quite remember when it was.
Yeah.
These are not mine. These are from Commerce Commission.
So just tell me what you're circulating, Michael.
Sorry,
so
I'm
we want
circulating material that has been, if you could just share it amongst yourself, there's 4 there, so. What I'm circulating, sorry, Andrew,
Would you pass
is
those
the
down?
consultation material
One for you
published
there.
by the Commerce Commission
Thank you.
on this particular issue.
Okay.
And has been the subject of workshops over the last 3 days. There was another one planned for both Queenstown and Wanaka today too, but they have been cancelled due to the COVID issue. The last of the consultation workshops was held yesterday in Cromwell.
Now the submission cut-off obviously is before our next council meeting, so we're required to approve that the submission is sent on behalf of the council.
Yep.
So you are moving along those lines?
I am. And a copy has been provided.
I'll just seek a seconder for that motion. Seconded by Gary. Speaking to the motion, Michael.
Thank you. First of all, can I introduce the issue to you? This is a most extraordinary issue in which the Commerce Commission have initiated consultation with the Otago, Central Otago, Queenstown and Wanaka communities, including Dunedin, related to a proposal from Aurora Energy to impose significant costs that are unavoidable because they are lines charges upon electricity consumers in the aforementioned districts and regions. The Commerce Commission have initiated it because in March of this year they successfully took a prosecution to the High Court that found that Aurora were in serious breach of their standards of both Commerce Commission and electricity regulations. And an amazing fine of $5 million was imposed upon Aurora. Now you might think, what a dreadful waste of money that is, and it sure is, because at the moment those $5 million, instead of being used to upgrade Aurora's network, will end up in the Consolidated Fund in Wellington. So there is more on this issue that we might get involved in. The aegis for reasons why we are making a submission on this is simply, as I've said in here, relates to our responsibilities under the Local Government Act. It's on page 2. The purpose of our organisation and all local governments to promote the social, economic, environment and cultural well-being of the communities in the present and future, and this is one of those. But it also has relevance to us for another reason, not just simply upon the economic and financial effects, but also upon the environmental effects of this, particularly around air quality and the associated health effects that flow from that. Ironic, I know, given my views on other issues on this matter at the last council meeting. This is the most extraordinary story I've come across in all my time in local government. It is a story of significant mismanagement by not simply senior management of a local government agency, but also of appalling governance and insight, where multiple agencies have dropped the ball, and ironically, the Commerce Commission concede that they were one of them. Now, what is being proposed as a result of that is that Aurora will spend over $600 million over 5 years to address the most basic of safety and reliability issues on the network. And the costs of that will be significant. They are $360 per annum for Central Otago and Wanaka consumers, $288 per annum for Queenstown Lakes consumers, and for Dunedin consumers, $240. Now, these are, as the Commerce Commission says, only preliminary charges. They may, in actual fact, get higher. And the Commerce Commission have been critical of, again, of the amount of information that Aurora have provided to allow us or anybody else to have an informed contribution to the process that we're going through in terms of the consultation.
Hey, Michael, I know you're really passionate about this
No,
topic,
I'm just giving you some background.
Yep, no, that's cool. That's cool.
So this today...
I just don't want this. I don't want this to
I accept that.
Drag on.
This today is just a submission that has been put in. Yesterday, I wrote that prior to the consultation that was held by the Commerce Commission. 4 members of the staff, including, I think, the Associate Director of the Commerce Commission, were there. And all of these issues, the Commerce Commission yesterday said they would like to address. They also asked me, or at least a couple of them, to contribute this informally to you today, but this should not be the end of our involvement in this issue. The Commerce Commission has a limited remit upon what it can and cannot do. But they have suggested, and I certainly will take up that suggestion on our behalf, but discuss it with you before we do anything, obviously, that there are still significant changes that need to happen that could only really happen with a conversation that happens at a political level between us as an organisation or the Dunedin City Council or the TAs and the government, because the Commerce Commission see a number of, I guess you'd say, shortages or deficiencies in what they can and cannot do to address these issues. So I so move, that's the background to it. If you need any of the documentation, I have it all here. If you wish to ask me any questions, ditto.
Thank you very much, Michael. And moved by Michael, Laws, seconded by Gary. Any questions for Michael? Michael Decker.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to Michael for the work and thought that's gone into this submission. It's an interesting read, and I don't disagree with it at all. I'm not suggesting that for a minute. But I do wonder what the submission is asking the Commerce Commission to do. A submission normally says, here's what I think, therefore, here's what I'd like you to do about it. And there are a couple of rhetorical questions towards the end of this submission, but there's no requirement or request for the Commission to act. That's my question. What are we asking them to do?
Michael Laws.
The reason there are rhetorical questions is because in the information that the Commerce Commission sent out, Michael, those issues haven't been addressed. They have arisen, ironically, as a result of the consultation process. And they are issues that the Commerce Commission hasn't addressed in its consultation with us. That is why they exist.
Thanks. I figured that was it, but could we therefore put a brief intro, bolded subparagraph at the top of those points on the second page, saying that therefore we as a council ask you to address these questions or something like that?
Sure.
Otherwise they just kind of float.
Yeah.
Okay, so the mover and the seconder are comfortable with that?
Yes, indeed.
Cool. Okay. Any other queries, questions?
I am uncomfortable and I will be not voting on it. I'm normally pretty uncomfortable actually at facing a situation that hasn't gone through a process with staff. Sorry, it's asking me to say that that person over there is the authority, and I'm afraid I can't.
That's fair enough.
That's fair enough. I will abstain, and it's for the reasons I've outlined here before, is that I had a considerable involvement with the City Council as an elected member over many years, and involved in a number of the decisions that I suppose sit behind this particular submission, although I'm no longer directly involved, but I just feel a bit awkward voting for this, so I will abstain. Are there any other speakers or Alexa?
I have a similar problem with it, and I'm trying to put my finger on it, and without really going through it super, super carefully, it feels to me that there's not the whole story here. And there's a lot of criticism of Aurora, which is no doubt justified. There's a lot of criticism of DCC, which may or may not be fully justified. I don't know enough. The economic effects and so on, I think you're probably on the money, literally, there, Michael. But I feel that needs some data around it, which is available, which staff would put around it if they were there. And I kind of feel that it's opinion, and I'm not sure I should be signing something, even though I agree with the opinion. I'm not sure that as a submission from our institution that it has enough rigour to it.
Sure. Can I answer that though? This is an initial submission to get us into the process by the 17th of this month when those conclude. What will happen is that the Commerce Commission will then generate a particular view and come back to us as a submitter for our particular view on that. So we have plenty of time still to add additional detail that we might like. What I'd like to do is not only submit this as an interim submission today, to provide this to our staff, exactly making the point that you're making, Alexa, to put some of that substance to it, particularly around the issue of air quality and potential health effects. We have, for example, that data here. We have a second bite at it, but we have to be in by the 17th of this month.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? And I abstain if we have that
I
recorded,
abstain
please.
too.
Marion and myself. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to...
Carried, was it, Mr Chair?
I beg your pardon?
It was carried, was it?
Oh, sorry, carried. Beg your pardon, I didn't say that. Sorry, motion carried. So moving on to the last item, and that relates to the councillor appointment for the Jobs for Nature Working Party. Brian, have you got something that you'd like to...
Well, it's probably a bit premature, but I'll put it out there. You asked me, and I'll put it out there and see what people think. Look, there'll be winners and losers. Some people put their hand up and most people didn't. But Gretchen had, initially provided the momentum, has got a lot of expertise in terms of your catchment group, Tyree group. Alexa, in terms of she's in another part of the world, Queenstown, a lot of things happening, COVID opportunity. I think she needs to be in there. Kate has a lot of experience, pest-free, the biodiversity, bringing all that together. I'd like to be on it. There's 4 people for you, and I've probably annoyed other people, I'm not sure. But you asked the question, there it is.
So you're suggesting Gretchen, Kate, Alexa and Brian be those members on that
if that's okay
Jobs
to
for Nature
the councillors, and I
working party?
apologise to anybody that, you know.
Okay, so it's been moved by Brian, seconded by Kevin. So discussion on this issue. Kate.
I'm intrigued that this has changed from the COVID-19 response, which it was in the motions in May, to Jobs for Nature. It narrows it down to what the work can be, and I understand why that. I think the working party could be a really good sounding board for staff at a broader level, and I would rather stay it as COVID-19, because I think there's we don't know yet how all of those things are going to pan out and what buckets of money. I totally happy to work on it, and Jobs for Nature is one part of it. But there are other things that I think we should be having a strategic directions view on that is wider. And so I'll accept it and happily do it, but I wish we were calling it COVID.
Okay, so I'm sure that the motion could be modified slightly to include the generic COVID-19 recovery, including Jobs for Nature. So then it's not excluding other potential projects that may be called something different that aren't in the Jobs for Nature category. I understand that. Are you happy, Brian? Are you happy, Brian, if that motion's modified?
Perfect.
Adding COVID-19 recovery into the motion. You happy with that? Okay.
That's Hillary's hands up.
Okay, so the seconder of the motion, who was Kevin, you happy with that, Kevin?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? Alexa.
Hillary wants to say something too. I'm just wondering if we are diluting ourselves that way, trying to get into a wider COVID recovery, which may require a different approach. I don't know. The Jobs for Nature approach is aligning us with other directions, other agencies. I don't know, just putting it out there.
From my point of view, the reason why we're having this discussion is because of COVID-19, and it's sort of the umbrella reason. It's the pandemic is why we're actually considering this. So it's sort of the overarching direction in the motion that's sort of pretty much guiding us at this point in time. So Hillary. Hello, Hillary.
Hello. I would just like to say to our people, and I'm quite happy for them to be the people who've been nominated, but to keep in mind that I don't know what's making that noise. Keep in mind that if it's jobs that we're wanting to do and it came from the pandemic reason, and to replace jobs for people who were working, that 9 out of 10 of them are women, and we should be making sure that we focus on, if it's Jobs for Nature, it's Jobs for Nature in brackets, particularly including jobs that people will actually choose women for. Not that they can do, because of course they'll be able to do anything, but that they will actually choose women for, because it's women who are losing most of the jobs.
I'm sure the 3 women that are on this, 3 out of the 4 won't forget that, Mr. Chair.
I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah, don't say anything.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Any further discussion?
Hillary.
Any further discussion? If not, thank you for allowing us to deal with this, Sarah. Much appreciated.
And to work with staff on this working party.
Absolutely. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you all. That completes the meeting. We have a workshop that has already started, and but we will have a 10-minute break and be back here for a workshop, and that's the review of governance